In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. At first the world was barren, hot and desolate. As it cooled came water, then life in abundance. About 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus, ancestor of modern man, first walked the plains of Central Africa. These early humans were omnivores, supplementing their vegetable diet with meat. They developed as hunter-gatherers, using their social skills to cooperate in hunting wild animals which fed and clothed them. They learned to make weapons to enhance their strength, weapons which were first fashioned from wood, stone, or the bones of animals. It is clear that these early hunters had a deep respect and understanding for the animals they hunted. They revered them. By the smearing on of blood, by the wearing of their skins, by ritual dances, and by painting them, early man tried to take on the spirit and attributes of the animals, be it strength, cunning, speed, or fortitude. Driven by hunger, humans developed ways of hunting successfully in the most challenging of environments. They learned to harvest the rivers and seas, as well as the land, venturing out into the deep oceans and eventually even hunting the giants of nature. About 10,000 years ago, man first began to domesticate animals and plant crops. The future lay not with the hunters, but with the farmers. From settled farming communities producing an excess of food came man's ability to specialize, to learn other craft skills, to live in towns and become civilized. With the domestication of animals came a change in the way man thought of them. Domestication meant ownership, and when men began to own animals and rear them as food, animals became a commodity. The change to settled agriculture and the development of civilization led to an increased population. This threatened animals in another way. It destroyed their habitats. Despite the change to a settled agricultural existence, with its much reduced need to catch food to survive, man's love of hunting continued. It was in the blood. Many continued to hunt to help feed their families and the community, like the farmer hunting to add variety to the diet, like professional hunters and trappers selling the fur, skins, meat or bones of the animals they hunted, like the professional wildfowlers who for centuries trapped and shot birds on the estuaries and mudflats and sold them to shopkeepers. Like the whalers who sailed the oceans, hunting the largest creatures of the earth, which for so long provided light, heat and food for urban man. And hunting has continued in all civilized societies as a sport. In medieval Europe, rich and powerful landowners jealously guarded their rights to hunt. Great estates and forests were carefully maintained where animals were hunted as a social and fashionable pastime. But there was another, more serious purpose. Many believed that the sport of hunting and confronting dangerous animals was best practice for war. The hunt was part of the sophisticated chivalric culture of the Middle Ages, as much a part of court life as banquets, music, dancing, and courtly love. Early hunter-gatherers learned to use dogs as hunting companions, and the partnership has proved successful. Man also learned to use birds of prey. These birds could not be tamed, but they could be persuaded to work with man, again for mutual advantage. In an almost primeval relationship, a wild creature and man hunt together. Hunting has taken many forms. In essence, the prey is chased or ambushed as it passes. Many cultures have used game drives where animals are herded into a corral and onto the waiting hunters. In Europe in the later Middle Ages, the bow and crossbow began to be challenged by fast improving firearms. More and more effective weapons were developed, allowing animals to be hunted from greater ranges with less risk and more certainty of a kill. But although although hunting has threatened some species, a far greater threat has been the explosion of human populations around the world. New and improved weapons led to new types of hunting. Light and accurate firearms were developed, which allowed birds to be shot in flight. Shooting flying birds became one of the most popular of European field sports, and falconry declined as a result. The rich, with ample leisure time, managed to fill some of it with shooting. By the 19th century, shooting weekends on large estates were great social occasions. The shooting party became fashionable. In 1888, on his estate at Blubberhouses near Harrogate, Lord Walsingham shot more than 1,000 grouse in one day. But the numbers of game birds in Britain did not decline. Rather, they increased. Estates were carefully managed to provide good shooting. Birds were bred, nurtured and protected, just as they are today. The same was and is true of deer. They have survived and flourished in this country because they are properly managed, both as farm animals and as sporting quarry. But elsewhere in the world, game management has not always been so successful. As Europe came to dominate the world, so European hunting methods spread around it. In India, Africa and the Far East, the numbers of big game were reduced as a result. In North America, vast herds of buffalo were cut down by hunters armed with the latest long-range rifles. A rail passenger in 1868 saw a herd of buffalo 120 miles long. 16 years later, not a single herd of 100 had survived. The buffalo, like the whale and ivory-bearing animals in the 20th century, had been driven to the brink of extinction. The industrialized exploitation of species as a natural resource is continuing. The pressure of global economic needs makes the decline of wildlife seemingly inevitable. Overfishing may now be seriously endangering fish stocks in our oceans. There is much talk of the need to end exploitation, to return to sustainable economies to preserve the diversity of wildlife. And for some, talking is not enough. Traditional methods of husbandry and food production and gathering have been discarded to make way for the financial efficiency demanded by international commerce. Habitats are constantly destroyed to provide food for an ever-growing number of people. New farming methods upset the old countryside balances. Modern lifestyles have made many of us exploiters of the environment, but not everyone. There are some who are already sustaining a balance between the needs of man and animals. Surprisingly to some, this idea of sustainability is one dear to the hunter's heart. On the great hunting estates, increasing efforts are being made to maintain a natural balance which will support a diversity of animal life. In the Amazon rainforest, it is not the hunters who are threatening the environment. They live in harmony with it and respect it. They also respect and understand the animals which they hunt and have no wish to kill the last one. Mourning the loss of the great herds of buffalo, the Native American Indian Chief Seattle spoke for them and all like them as long ago as 1884. What happens to beasts will happen to man. All things are connected. If the great beasts are gone, man will surely die of a great loneliness of spirit.